I had 4 radical propositions which explained something in the Mormon church. A little couplet. As man is, God once was. As God is, man may become. So I remember writing that down on a piece of paper, on a tablet, and I would go to priesthood class and I would ask everybody. I need everybody to answer this question. It's a simple one. According to the proposition, as man is, God once was, who came first, God or man? Everybody said God came first. Really? So I would go to the stake president and his counselors. I would go to anyone and everyone that was a Mormon in Utah, because that's where I lived at the time. And I would quote this proposition that's in the Mormon church and ask them, who came first? I got as high as Marvin J. Ashton, one of the apostles of the Mormon church, in 1978. And he said, God came first. I remember I stopped him because he was chairman of the board of the company I worked for, Prowswood, I think it was a church-owned company or something like that. But Marvin J. Ashton was on the board of directors, or was the director or something like that. And I saw him. He came over to the plant and was just walking around. I said, I need to ask you a question. It's real quick. I asked him. He said, well, God came first. And then I remember asking him, are you really comfortable with that answer? He goes, it's the only answer I can give you. Years later, this is after I left the church, I remember an interview where Gordon B. Hinckley was asked by a reporter regarding the King Follett discourse and God evolving from a man. Can you tell us anything about it? Gordon B. Hinckley said, I don't know anything about it. I don't know anyone who does. It hasn't been taught in the church for a long time. I understand the philosophy behind it, but I don't know. Amazing. Had no knowledge of what this very radical statement meant. They had no understanding of it. And the prophet, the guy who should have known, admitted that he knew nothing about it, and he didn't know anyone who knew anything about it. Well, in 1978, I could verify that. Out of the hundreds of priesthood holders I asked, from a general authority down to bishops, stake presidents, patriarchs, just the average day, everyday Mormon neighbor that I had, they all gave me the identical answer. And they were simply all wrong. The proposition is this. If you know anything about logic, you know anything about Boolean algebra, you know anything about Aristotelian laws of thought, and especially the law of identity, when the proposition states, as man is, God once was, as man is, God once was a man. Now, I had 4 radical propositions that could explain that. Of course, to clarify things in the true Gnostic Church so that there is no misunderstanding, I wrote a new proposition, one that could not possibly be misunderstood. It goes like this. God, who is our future, came from humans who are their past. Now, in that phrase, you'll find no ambiguity and no vagueness. It simply means what it says. Doesn't require much interpretation. It just requires a little thought, a little intellect, and that's all it requires.